Before we begin, thank you very much to 1/60th scale perfect grade convoy for pitching in over on Ko-fi. Totally not a Gundam masquerading as a convoy. Absolutely not. Why would that exist? Why would anyone do that or make that? That's a silly thing to exist. I'm going to pretend that it doesn't. But thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you very much for chipping in. Always, always appreciated. So, I noticed something today thanks to a recent purchase of mine. I like Hot Rod, and thus I like Rodimus Prime. I think it's a very different and interesting take on an Autobot leader that never really got a chance because of the outrage over Optimus Prime's death. It was just an incredibly bad way of delivering a brand new leader Autobot character. But that said, he still has gotten a lot of love over the years, a lot of toys, and subsequently a lot of repaints. And the weird thing is, I'm almost certain he has more repaints into other characters than he does back into himself. It's very, very odd. I'm sure there's other Transformers that come close to this, but outside of like a Seeker, not really. So I'm going to take a look at all of the ones I could find at a cursory glance, and it's still a lot. And we're going to get through the easy ones first, just like the most simple basic ones, starting with Dark Hot Rod. Now, yes, this is not just a black repaint. This is technically a completely new character. The story goes that it's a clone created by Megatron, and convinced it was the original Hot Rod, minus things like morals and kindness. The thing is, though, is that when it discovered the truth of its origins, it had a complete change of heart. There's still enough Rodimus or Hot Rod in there to actually feel remorse for how he was born and what his intention was, so he joins the Autobots. Hence why it's a black repaint with red eyes, but they didn't want to change the stickers, so they just left it with an Autobot symbol. That's their explanation for the story. So yeah, this is technically a different character. And also, this is technically a different character. So Black Rodimus Prime is another evil duplicate, but this one was created, basically the manifestation of Hot Rod / Rodimus Prime's doubts, insecurities, guilt over the death of Optimus, and feeling unworthy of the Matrix. All of this built up so much in the Matrix itself, so much in Rodimus, that it manifests a physical form. Now, it's a short-lived story, doesn't really go anywhere. It's really just to sell a repaint of a masterpiece toy. Still, this is technically a completely new character. The difference here is that you aren't going to see me include Rodimus Unicronus in this list, because that, canonically, is a corrupted form of Hot Rod. That doesn't quite count for this list. What does count is Shattered Glass Hot Rod. This one, if you don't know, is, essentially Starscream. I don't really have to do any other explanation than that. In the Shattered Glass universe, he's the Starscream. And he's good at it. Instead of being the chosen one, he's the one who wishes he was chosen. So, yeah, it's one of the more interesting takes on the Shattered Glass universe. Deco-wise, I do love this one. The goatee is always a hilarious inclusion on a Shattered Glass, Hot Rod of any type. Though this one is technically Rodimus. This one technically goes by a far more serious name. Still, always love this one. Always really cool. But again, technically a different character. Now, this is easy stuff. Evil versions of Hot Rod, that's easy. So let's get into the weird ones. And as long as we are looking at the classics mold, we might as well continue on with the next one that comes to mind, Sideburn. Sideburn being one of the various characters done over the years to kind of fill that niche of Hot Rod, of this young upstart character who is a Hot Rod himself in both personality and vehicle mode. This one tries so hard. Now, this is a fun pub toy. meaning they basically had an infinite paint budget to make this work, and he is absolutely slathered with paint trying to make this deco and homage work. There's some paint on the head itself that's doing some heavy lifting to get this to look as much like Sideburn as humanly possible. And to be fair, I think it's a commendable job. And the fact that the mostly reason why this gets pulled is because engine on chest. And everything else has to come from there. And I think that's kind of hysterical. Still, it's a little bit crowbarred in, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad job of doing it. There's one more from this mold, and this one also makes me laugh a little bit. Wild Rider. This one was a Takara exclusive, only in Japan. And yeah, they saw fit to actually repaint this guy, Hot Rod, into a Stunticon. And frankly, one that doesn't really match the vehicle mode, if we're going to be honest here. I mean, obviously, you know, it's crowbarred in. This is not the only time they did weird things like this. If you remember, Universe 2 Cyclonus was redone as Technobot Strafe as an exclusive in Japan. Weird homages, like really weird ones that don't really fit, except in like the vaguest ways. Strafe was a space jet, so Cyclonus is a space jet. Let's do that. You know, never mind the space jets are completely different shapes. And this one, same way. They're both sports cars. Yeah. I will say I don't mind the look. I mean, the gunmetal gray and black and the red is always going to look good. Like you aren't really getting anything wrong here. You know, it looks good. You know, this was the age when, you know, you couldn't just like make a new Wild Rider. You just had to make it from whatever was left over if you wanted to have one. So you get some weird ones like this. As long as we're here talking gray repaints as well as talking Stunticons, we might as well switch over to another mold. So let's talk Titanium Menasor. Now, canonically, and yes, there is story canon to this, this is all 5 of the Stunticons rebuilt into a singular body, fused together permanently, and basically driven mad with hatred and desire for violence. It's kind of a cliche way of just saying, hey, we repainted Titanium Rodimus Prime into Motormaster, but we can't trademark Motormaster right now, so we're going to call him Menasor instead and make this really convoluted backstory to explain it. This one is, of course, the very first Plastic Addict toy. Given the mold has some pretty significant issues to it, despite being okay in general, what pushed it over the edge for me was always how lazy this repaint was. See, the paint mask and tampographics are exactly the same as the normal Rodimus Prime, meaning they didn't do any work whatsoever to come up with a new color layout. Switch up the flames in both modes, I'd be a lot happier with this toy, right? Just do like Motormaster striping down the side, you know, figure out how to do that across the chest just to give it a little bit of interesting detail. Something, anything. Just try to make it look a little bit more like the character you intend it to be. Nope. Nope. So yeah, never was big on this presentation at all, but toy's better than I kind of made it out to be in that video. And then there's this funny thing. We're not done with Stunticons, because animated Hot Rod, or animated Rodimus Major, ended up being Breakdown as in part of the BotCon animated set. Funny thing, this was originally going to be Wild Rider, so 2 different Rodimus toys were going to be repainted into Wild Rider. It was Derek Wyatt that suggested that the Lockdown and Rodimus molds were switched for those characters, and I think it is the correct move. I think it looks better than it would have done as Wild Rider, as Breakdown. I think it's, you know, I think Lockdown works better. Doing a weird job of imitating Wild Rider. It's it's craziness. You know, it's the weird, wacky world of BotCon repaints and just kind of working with the molds you've got available. I kind of miss those days. You know, there was some imagination and effort put into repaints because it had to look like something. So this was a fun little diversion. This was a really fun iteration uh, of the Stunticons. Yeah, it's just funny. Now, he's never going to be drag strip, so we can put that one to bed. And I think it's a little bit late now to complete that with a dead end. Probably not going to happen at this rate. This mold's not done either, though, because we also have this one. So, not just Sideswipe, G2 Sideswipe. Much brighter colors. And oddly enough, I think works better for the mold. I think this was actually a pretty good choice. Now, you know, now we're getting into like head retoolings and all that, but I'm going to count it for the sake of this video because it's crazy how many times Rodimus has been different characters. I believe there was actually mock-ups of both of these to be in their alternate color schemes. If you look on TF Wiki, you'll actually see what this mold would have looked like in the traditional red. There's art of that. And I believe there's also an art of G2 G2 breakdown. That one, you know, that one also visible. So this mold is like, I don't know why. Like, the mold's surprisingly versatile, though I guess we have Siege Sideswipe to tell us how versatile a Sideswipe style design is, right? Still, kind of fun. Kind of fun. But there's another mold out there for Rodimus, Hot Rod, whichever you want to calling him in this minute of the video, that has also been 3 different characters. And that starts with one original character, which is Checkpoint. Part of the Autobot SWAT team, which in Energon was designed to be a team that was far more aggressive, securing Energon from Decepticons. Rather than playing defense and being reactionary like standard Autobot soldiers are, these guys were on the offense. These guys were actually out for Decepticon blood. Something akin to like an Energon set of Wreckers, though not nearly as much of a one-way mission. I always liked this one, weirdly enough. I kind of wish there was a way of doing this again, but, you know, we're probably never going to see the Energon version of Rodimus ever, you know, considering no Energon toys get made anymore. Yeah, I always kind of like this. I'll tell you what, the prow that comes with it is clean. Oh my god, that toy is way underrated. Way underrated. That said, it's not the only use. So we go back to the Wild World of Fun Pub, and we look at their take on Thunderclash. I actually have this one. Like, I've got the Wings of Honor set, so like it's tucked away somewhere in the bins. But this one is, again, a pretty cool, this is a pretty cool deco. For those who never really looked up Thunderclash, these days in fiction, he's kind of treated like that war hero that's off in another country, being this big deal soldier general type, and comes home to like a standing ovation type. He's one of those, you know, like he's like a great is like great heroic warrior, super famous, super looked up to, but he's off somewhere else fighting the good fight. That's typically his depiction these days. It's a really weird fit. Thunderclash was the mold that got turned into Machine Wars Optimus Prime. So this is a really rough fit, but it's probably the best that we're gonna get for a long while. Thunderclash is one of those good frickin' luck kind of characters to actually get a new toy of. But if we're gonna do this one, then we also have to account for the Shattered Glass version of the character as well. This one features very little characterization because it's a custom class figure, meaning there's only probably about 50 of these in existence. Custom class is actually pretty small back in the BotCon days. So, yeah, treasure it if you got it. It's exceptionally rare. Very, very few of them in existence. Not too bad a color scheme, though. Like, okay, kind of like a cream, white, and teal going on. Okay, the black hits, too. It's a little bit Nova Prime. Just a little bit. If it wasn't for that teal, But again, you can see shattered glass deco on it, etc., etc. Now we're going to get into some weird ones. Now we get into some really weird ones. So if we go back to the Legends class Hot Rod toy, then we can find him cosplaying as Smokescreen. Okay, when did that happen? Now, to be fair, this toy always felt like it wasn't really supposed to be Rodimus. I mean, yes, the overall layout of the robot mode kind of shows you that, but there's just too many details off. Like, he's not a wedge vehicle. His spoiler is very typical. It's not like what you expect out of a hot rod spoiler. It doesn't have the right angle or look or anything. It's just the kind of thing your annoying neighbor puts on his car that's probably more expensive than the car was itself. You know, trying to turn, you know, some old junker from the 90s into something from Fast and the Furious. We all know him. There's someone in your town who has done it. It's a weird fit mold. So I guess they intentionally made him more Earth-like in vehicle mode just for situations like this, but Smokescreen's a really weird situation. I guess his name was just due to be reused. I guess that's all it was. From Smokescreen to God, Rodimus Prime, an all-gold chrome version of G1 Rodimus Prime, was the very first toy we ever got that was supposed to be a representation of Primus. Keep in mind, in the older fictions, the reason Hot Rod looks the way he does, and the reason why he is the chosen one, the hint, is the fact that in the Marvel comics and some other fictions, you actually see aspects of Primus, and he looks like Hot Rod. An intentional decision from writers later on to kind of further connect Hot Rod with his destiny of being the chosen one to save everyone in their darkest hour, etc. It's a choice after the fact, but that's how you end up with something like this, you know. And weirdly enough, it really doesn't look very different from just normal Rodimus. It's just shiny now. Still, if you ever wanted to experience an all chrome figure without having to, you know, buy, like a lucky draw for 5 to 6 digits, this one's out there somewhere. Someone's got to have it for sale. Good luck getting it unscratched. We go from Transformers God to a far more important character, Ken Masters. Obviously, I'm kidding. I love the Street Fighter mashups. I really do. They are stupid. They're ridiculous. They crowbar these characters into existing figures with as much paint as it takes. You know, this is like the closest I think Hasbro normal releases ever came to just straight up doing BotCon level stuff. Just throw paint on it until it looks like the character we want it to look like. To be fair, this was Takara's exclusive originally, but when collaborative became a thing, Hasbro got the license to release it here stateside. Which is kind of funny because these things were like dirt cheap clearance at one point, and then even more got released. Thanks, Hasbro. One of the weirdest ones that we talked about endlessly. Earthspark. I'm never not going to screw those two up in my brain. Earthspark Prowl. Keep in mind, Takara showed off a repaint of Cyberverse Prowl that it looked really, really good, and we scrapped it for this instead because this is physically kind of closer to how Prowl ended up looking in the cartoon, even though this is still pretty far off, if you ask me. It's so shoehorned in. Like, and the weird thing about this is he's one away. If you ever see a Hot Rod toy that gets repainted into Blue Streak, then he's got the entire Datsun trifecta. Which is really, really weird because he doesn't look like any of them in the slightest. This was the most confusing figure I think I've ever seen. Oh, and one of the quickest to go to clearance that I had ever seen out of Earthspark. I know at one time I found this at Ross for like $8 and I still passed because it's ridiculous. And then there's the one that started this whole video, the one that got me looking in the first place. So I went toy hunting today just for an excuse to hit some stores and walk around. Absolutely nothing new in my area. Absolutely nothing new at my usual Target. So I did what I have been doing at said local Target. I picked through the box of tiny turbochangers, look at little codes on the back, pluck a few that I don't have yet. And then, okay, take the Shockwave, take the Ratchet. He's kind of funny because he's the biggest shell former I've seen, even though he's that small. And then I grabbed the Wheeljack, completely unaware that Tiny Turbochanger Wheeljack is a Hot Rod repaint. And this is the first version. Okay, this is the one that's off of TF Wiki. The new one, actually, where's my new one? New one, you're not going to be able to see this. You're not going to be able to see this. Okay, you can kind of see this. I know my lights are a little bit dim. I don't know why the lights are so dim right now. They're like really bright in my eyes, but not to the camera. But yeah, even through like that, you can see like the chest on this one is painted. The head is painted on this one. It still has all the paint the original one has. The sides of the arms are painted. Still, why? Why was Hot Rod repainted into a Wheeljack? I understand, like, you, like, this is a cheap toy line and you really don't want to put as much investment into it unless you absolutely have to, but like, this is like 5, maybe 6 pieces of plastic. And you're telling me you couldn't just do a Wheeljack instead. Whatever. And through that, looking up Tiny Turbochanger Hot Rod to see like, oh yeah, like he's always been Wheeljack. That led me to another discovery. He's also Sideswipe. So Hot Rod, Rodimus Major, Rodimus Prime, whatever you want to call him, George, every time George has been repainted, out of that, 2 times he's been one of the 3 Datsuns, and twice now he has been one of the Sideswipe paint jobs. This one is so weird because in vehicle mode it just looks like Hot Rod. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that the head was black, I would just say this is a Hot Rod toy. It's a really, really weird choice, especially as we have now confirmed, you can make Sideswipe into anyone. So just make a Sideswipe mold. Do you have any idea how many uses you're going to get out of it? And that's where the list ends. I went on for 20 minutes just detailing how many times Rodimus, Hot Rod, Rodimus Prime, George ends up just being a random other Autobot, or sometimes evil Autobot, or sometimes Decepticon. Whichever one Hasbro wants at the time, and it's one of the weirdest trends I think I've ever noticed. But like I said, there's probably someone else who comes close who isn't a Seeker. Let's get that one straight. At least all Seekers are Decepticons, at least falls into like something canonical of like generic body soldiers and all this. This is just like hit the random button on TF Wiki and we're repainting Rodimus into him. It's weird. It's weird, but that's what I have for you today. So enjoy the little observations like this, the weird ones that I make and just have to pontificate about. But I hope you enjoyed it. So until next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.